What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Ripple. I want to give you a quick overview of some of the data points, what is really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Ripple is up 5.91%, 4.03 billion for volume over the last 24 hours. So that is a good amount of volume, but comparing it to what has been recently happening, it is diminishing. So something to keep in mind, but despite the lower-ish volume, you are still seeing it going up. So it does want to go up, in my opinion. There's a lot of recent speculative things really driving it higher. Most recently about BlackRock, the $9 trillion that potentially they will be investing in, ETFs, the whole lawsuit. There is a lot of good things, good catalysts that could really propel Ripple to just all-time highs. But until that does happen, it is just largely following the technicals. So I'll go over that in a second. But one thing that a lot of people generally do not bring up is this. So even though we're only 7 days in December, just December alone, there is 30 new merchants accepting Ripple as a form of payment. And this is one thing, like I said, a lot of people generally overlook. A lot of people always just bring up that BlackRock and blah, blah, blah are buying Ripple, lawsuit, but you need utility. So right now there is 1,629 merchants accepting Ripple as a form of payment. Once you have that utility kind of ingrained and into day-to-day society, then that is where you'll have that constant level of demand, and it'll just go up to the moon from there. And I very rarely use that kind of phrase, but right now, looking at the crypto fear and greed index, it is under the extreme greed category, so 82, meaning people's appetite for risk is on the table. But even though there's a lot of greed in the market, there is still a lot of hesitation, and you can see that just based on this. So the recent numbers of money markets, it looks like money was going back into money markets, $95.86 billion, in fact, just on a week-over-week basis. And ultimately that is coming from just equities as well as crypto. Equities, I think, was getting a lot lower volume. Crypto has been somewhat maintaining itself a little bit, but as I brought up, I think what has been happening recently is just the tip of the iceberg, because between 2020 and 2021, there was a very big market rotation out of money markets into both equity and crypto. And so when it comes down to that, there is currently a record high of $6.77 trillion sitting in money markets. So once they do rotate out and they feel very comfortable, whether it be, let's say, lawsuit news or ETF news or just whatever bigger entity just acknowledging crypto as a viable investment, this is where you will see a very big rotation. And then we already do know what happened in 2021. Many things hit record highs, and like I said, I think even though it has gone up quite a lot over the last little bit, so just generally the last 6 months, up 389%, this might just be the tip of the iceberg. But until that does happen, I think it's just largely following the technicals. So a lot of people are throwing out crazy price predictions, saying it's going to be 100 and whatever else. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to hype you up. My last video, I did state that it was going to probably bounce off of that 295 range, and it did bounce off of 290. So I'm a very big technical individual, so again, I'm not here to hype you up or anything like that. I'm more of a realistic individual, I'd like to categorize myself as. So as far as this, I'll give you a quick overview of the liquidations. So let's move over to XRP and move over that. Okay, so as far as liquidations, you haven't really seen all that much here, so that's kind of mimicking the volume generally, but we have seen just with this recent move what shorts and what it does to shorts. So essentially Ripple is a very big short squeeze, because ever since, even though there is lower volume, there is a lot more shorts starting to get in, and you can see that based on just a lot of the recent activity. So ultimately, if there is some more news or a lot of the speculative news comes to fruition, this is where you'll see just massive highs. And in reality, there is still that altcoin season. So Ripple, many other coins are outperforming Bitcoin. So I think they will continue to get the much needed attention as long as the crypto fear and greed index kind of maintains this extreme greed category. But largely, I'm more of a technicals individual. So with it at 244, it is trading between these 2 points. So this R2 and this R1. $2.38 is going to be that key pivot for Ripple. And so far, it actually did bounce off of that generally for the last 24 hours, so something to keep in mind. But $2.63 and then 304 are going to be the next strong resistance / targets for Ripple to kind of move towards. And in my opinion, you might see that 304 possibly maybe next week. Of course, I think we've gone back to the whole consolidation during Monday through roughly Friday, and then Friday evening going into Saturday. And this is where you kind of are seeing a lot more pushing of higher. So in reality, I think there's just as well a lot of rotations happening within the crypto market. So a lot of people are kind of focusing on tokens. More specifically, I think the biggest flop was that 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 scenario. So I think that did spook a lot of individuals, and maybe this is where you'll see a rotation back out from tokens into more viable investments such as Ripple. But until that does happen, it's just following the technicals. So I have the 1 day, 50, 100, 200 day moving average, ALMA, and super trend. So generally at the 1 day, you're looking, it's very, very bullish. And despite the lower-ish volume, you can kind of see that right here, but it is above the ALMA. So that 238 to 236, that is a very key pivot that you do need to really watch for Ripple to hold. If not, then this is where you could see a little bit more consolidation. But aside from that, though, moving over to the 4 hour and the 1 hour, this is where you're seeing a lot of bullishness. So it is kind of staying above that ALMA, above all the key data points and moving averages that I generally like to look at. The only sign of weakness is, for the most part, this 1 hour. You're still seeing a lot of bullishness, but it is kind of flirting with that 100-day moving average right now. So $2.45 as well is going to be that key one that needs to get over in the short term. If not, then you're going to see a consolidation back to this point right here of 238. So in my opinion, like I said, I think there's still a hell of a lot more upside than down, just with crypto in general, but more specifically Ripple. So Ripple has maintained its third place for market cap. Like I said, a lot of people are just throwing out some crazy numbers where it is going to surpass possibly Bitcoin. I don't know if that is realistic or viable, but you know what? Honestly, anything can happen in the crypto market. It all comes down to what big whales are doing. And lately, big whales have really been focusing on Ripple. So let me know your thoughts. Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? What have you been doing? And realistically, where do you see things going 1 year out? Do you think it's going to be at that $100 mark, or 10, 20, 30? What is your kind of price predictions? And if you are interested, I have been giving a lot of buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto through my new Patreon I just launched roughly 3 weeks ago. And despite it launching 3 weeks ago, I've already had a couple stocks that have 2x'd. So pop over there, take a look, link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.